Greetings, Pokefans! Zack Attack here, and today we're talking about a Pokemon challenge that you can self-inflict that not only makes the game harder, but also makes it a lot less fun. And that's Pokemon Nuzlocking. Nuzlocks have three standard rules to them. The first one is that you can only catch the first Pokemon you run into per route, or I guess in the modern games, you can only catch one Pokemon per route. The second rule is, and this is the big one, there's permadeath. Once a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and you can no longer use it. And the third rule is you have to nickname your Pokemon so you grow more attached to them. Of course, people do these on their channels. Many PokeTubers do, with more success than others. And the ones that don't have success, well, they cry. And it's very sad to see. And I thought to myself, what if I did one of these self-inflicted challenges? The first time on this channel. Because one, y'all like seeing me suffer, and two, they get more views. So, I mainly did it for the views. I suffered for my art. You're welcome. However, what's a good challenge? And of course, what's a good challenge without a history? This is not my first Nuzlocke. My first Nuzlocke on the channel, but not my first Nuzlocke in general. I have done 2 other Nuzlockes up until this point, so this will be my third one. The first one was a Sword Nuzlocke that I did when I was still in high school. I'll admit my later high school years. I had 5 deaths in that one. A Chinchou, a Yamper, a Xatu, a Frillish, and a Manectric. I don't remember what my final team was exactly, but I do remember that my starter was Cinderace. Of course, the other Nuzlocke was Brilliant Diamond, which I didn't have a single death in. Not one. Not even against the Cynthia battle. Like, up until the Elite Four, it's pretty easy peasy. Sure, there are some tough challenges, like some of these jungles can give you a heyday if you're not careful, because some of them still run competitive sets, not so much EVs and IVs, but just sets in general. I didn't really have much trouble, because against the Spiritomb, I just brought my Gardevoir in, set up 6 Calm Mind, swept through the first 5, and then had my Weave Out Ice Shard 2 times against the Garchomp. It's not hard. It's not rocket science either. Granted, if it was a hardcore Nuzlocke, I definitely would have lost a few Pokemon, but that's not the point. The point of the matter is that I won without any deaths. Pat myself on the back for that. And that was like the hardest Pokemon game ever made. Or one of them, rather. The hardest is probably like Pokemon Coliseum or something like that. Which I do want to play at some point. And then now this one that we're currently doing, the Pokemon Violet Nuzlocke. And of course, before we begin, I would like to ask you to subscribe if you enjoy enjoy my content. You're probably going to enjoy this video, so make sure you subscribe, turn on bell notifications, you know the drill by now. And let's dive in to our Pokemon Violet Nuzlocking adventure. The first thing I had to do is figure out my starter choice. And how I do it is I take a look at the early game bosses and which starter does the best against those in general is my starter selection. So, like, for example, in my Sword, it was Scorbunny. In my Brilliant Diamond, it was Chimchar. I don't know what the fire starters, but the fire starters tend to be the best ones for most early game playthroughs, because I chose Fuecoco for this Nuzlocke. I don't know what it is with fire starters, but they tend to do the best in the early game. There's only a small handful of times where that's not the case, because Gen 5 and Gen 6, that's the case as well. I think it's just Gen 5, Gen 6, Gen 4. Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen 6. Gen 9, and Gen 8. So the 5 generations where the Fire Sword is the best one for a Nuzlocke in the early game in general. That's a lot. That's a lot. But I chose my Coco and I named it Gator because Skeledirge is a literal gator. And thankfully not bipedal. Of course, my first battle with Nemona went swimmingly. And now we have take out the Lechonk in the very beginning of the route, and now we have Pokeballs, and the Nuzlocke officially begins. Also, by the way, for realizing why I'm not showing my footage is because I don't have like any editing equipment, so I can't show you the footage. So if you want to check out what actually happens, you can go check out the playlist that I made about my Nuzlocke. This video will also be in the playlist as well, and then you can just see how I went from there, and you can just follow along. Sorry I have to do this to you, but that's just how it is. So you're just gonna have to bear with it. Anyways, next is my first encounter. And I could have waited to potentially get like a Flamigo or a Ralts or a Wooper, but I instead settled for Pawmi. Reason why is because the electric type is very, very good. And so is the fighting type. There are a lot of really, really good fighting type options very early in the game, but Pawmi is the one electric type early game that actually gets a secondary typing. Because fighting is so valuable, I figured, well, what's the harm in trying? And I named it Linkling after my viewer who wanted to be named after the Pokemon. Which, by the way, it was only like 2 viewers in my chat who were named after Pokemon. Pawmi was one of them. And he would do wonders later in the run. But for now, we move on and we hear a mysterious cry over the cliff. And it's Miraidon. Oh, excuse me. Jetbutt. Go Team Sky. As we go through the Inlet Grotto with Jetbutt, we get Ninja YT, the other viewer, in the form of a Diglett. Because ground type. Might as well use my encounter, right? Because the only encounter I can get in there is a Young Goose. Young Goose is not going to help me at all. Unless you want to talk about Donald Trump, but this isn't the presidency elections. Anyways, so now, so next week, Jetbutt helps us out. We fight Arvin, we beat him, and then we fight Nemona not long after. A Gator is able to take out the Sprigatito, no problem. And of course, Mole is able to literally block Terra Electric Pawmi, since all that thing has is Thunder Shock. We enter Mesagoza, beat up Team Star, get the 3 plot quest, and now we have access to more of the map. And we need some encounters. Of course, we start by going west to a bug gym to get our next encounter. And for our Pokemon, we choose Smoliv, named it Tree. And the reason why I chose Smoliv is because grass types are pretty valuable in this playthrough, and I can get other water type options later. So I can have a little bit of a grass, fire, water core going on, assuming nothing goes wrong. Of course, we take on Katie, and Gator, now Crocolore, wins with little issue. We then go all the way back to get our next encounter. To the east side, because we gotta go fight that Titan Claw. But But I bet what y'all didn't know is that Titans count as encounters, because after you beat them, you can go catch them. So I wanted to grind my team to take on said Cloth, but Tree, the small doesn't evolve until level 25. Who authorized this? And Linkling doesn't evolve until level 18. I don't have time to sit around and grind these people. I don't have time for this. Why? Why is this challenge, despite having no deaths, thankfully, already so hard? I'm already at a roadblock. Am I going to win this challenge? What do I do? I've never been in this kind of situation before. Probably because most of the playthroughs you do don't require any actual skill. Ah! Oh, sorry, I forgot to do my thing. 1 second. Tis I, T-Boy, and I'll elaborate more on my thoughts in a minute, but first I'm going to talk to you about the sponsor of this video, Dragon City. Dragon City is a very fun dragon collecting and city building game where you can collect a lot of very unique dragons. You can breed them, you can battle with them, and of course, build your city to your liking. And recently, we got this new MNJTV Team Sky album that you can put into your city. Wait, really? Since when? Since I set it up with them, I'm not just a pretty face. Although, to be clear, I am a pretty face because I do other things too. You can even join clans as well and form alliances with other players and get extra bonus rewards. While you also enjoying battling and collecting and city builder mechanics while you're at it. I want to circle back to the emblem right quick. That is so cool. I know, right? By the way, if you, the viewer, want to try out Dragon City for yourself, all you have to do is head down to the link in the description below, and using our link specifically, you can get 3,000 gold, 15,000 food, and the very rare Neo Izumi dragon, as well as the Team Sky emblem as soon as you get in-game. Great! Now, about what you were saying earlier, that I don't do playthroughs that require skill a lot of the time. You do playthroughs with a very straightforward and simple gimmicks. Play more Decay's ROM hack team, fighting types only. Sure, they're technically harder than a normal playthrough, but not by much. And most of these other big name content creators have very famously done very difficult challenge while you have very little experience in that department. Well, yeah, I'm new to PokeTubing. And besides, aren't you forgetting about my solo Oshawott Legends Arceus run? I guess that's fair, but regardless, that's fine. It's fine that you're not really a top tier battler. Your skill is not in your battle capabilities, it's in your creativity. For example, me. People love me. And I'm just the brand deal guy. Play to your strengths. Don't worry about your failures. Learn from your failures and quit comparing yourself to others so much. Wow. Thanks, Grunty Boy. I didn't know you could be so wise. Sure you did. You roped me this way. I mean, I'm a very, very independent person, not a character. I love crime or whatever. Ta-ta! Anyways, thanks so much to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. But anyways, let's get right back to it. And the cloth. Anyways, Grunty Boy was right. I wouldn't get anywhere if I just sat around and didn't do anything. If I won the cloth, I would have to train first. So what did I do? I went straight to the grass gym. And well, Gator, had himself another heyday. And this experience allowed Linkling to finally evolve into Palmo. So, now that I had my Palmo, I could finally go beat up the cloth. But I had one more thing to do before that. A certain goat on this channel, y'all are very familiar with, was an encounter in the next route. And while there were better options, well, I mean, it's the goat. I'm not going to pass him a chance to get the goat. So, we got Bobby the Cyclozar, or Bubby the Goat. Bubby. But my next encounter was Cyclozar, who we named Bubby, and now it was time to go right back to the cloth. In doing so, Linkling arm thrusted the cloth into the literal oblivion, and in both phases, and we were able to defeat the Titan Cloth, get the Herba Mystica, and get Jetbutt, the dash ability. Once we got out of there, we went up, caught the cloth, named it King Crab, and now it's time to move on to the Flying Titan, otherwise known as Skyton. Go Team Sky! Now, I also wanted to use the Titan in this area as my encounter. So to avoid catching any Pokemon and evolving Linkling into Palmont, I would need to auto battle. And auto battle does not count as encounters because, like I said, it's just auto battle. So, after 1,000 steps, a few auto Pokemon in a trainer battle later, Linkling would eventually become Palmont. Now that I had Palmont and now that I had Linkling and Palmont and King Crab the Cloth, I felt comfortable taking on Skyton. Headed on up, and King Crab pretty much soloed Skyton by itself. I didn't need to do the whole Palmo thing. But I'm so glad I did, because catching Skyton was going to be the tricky part. I didn't have Nuzzle on Linkling anymore at this point, I don't think. So, I had some decisions to make. And trying my best to avoid death. There was a lot of switching, a few heals, but I eventually got Bombardier, named it Skyton. I had to replace King Crab. But, because, Rocky Payload already gets Rock Stab, and you get the Dark Flying as well. But I got my bird. So, I wasn't too upset about that. Then, our next big mission was the Dark Team Star Camp. However, there was a Pokemon that I wanted to get before that in South Province Area 4 as my encounter. Riolu. Riolu is a fighting type, but and it's a friendship evolution by day into Lucario. But Lucario, being Steel type, would be a nice fairy type counter despite it being part fighting. It would be a little bit annoying to evolve, but once it did, it would be a very good and unstoppable force. We needed to get a Riolu though, and once I did, gave it the Soothe Bell, and I tried to make it love me before Dark Team Star Camp, but obviously that's too soon. But while I was training it, you're not going to believe what happened. That's right. Shiny Rockruff appeared out of nowhere. I don't know who allowed it, but I'm not complaining. Now, of course, there is a shiny clause in Nuzlocking. I don't know what it says exactly what the shiny clause is. I know you can catch a shiny Pokemon regardless and use it on your team, and it doesn't count as an encounter. I think they are still allowed to die, though. I don't remember. I thought I saw somewhere that shiny Pokemon can't die. But maybe I'm wrong and I'm just an idiot. But maybe a professional Nuzlocker who's watching this video can probably clarify. But shiny hey, Phoebe Rockruff. I'll take it. Didn't end up using it. But I'll take it. Anyways, now it was time for the Dark Team Star Camp. And basically, it was just a lot of Link and Bubby. Literally. Like, I led Link off in the battle against the Pawniard. Took it out with Arm Thrust, and after the Starmobile came in, intimidated Linkling, swapped it out, and Bubby came in. And I would go back and forth. Every time a metal sounded, I would switch out. There would be an arm thrust or a breaking swipe, and I would just keep going back and forth. Eventually, the Team Star card did go down, and we beat our first Team Star camp. Next up, I wanted to do the Electric Gym. But before that, I wanted to get an encounter. More specifically, Paldean Wooper, over there in the swampy area. And on my way there, no, not a shiny. Don't get your hopes up. But I found Shellos on my way there. I still caught the Wooper, but I saw Shellos and I was debating it because of Storm Drain. But Storm Drain isn't 100% guaranteed. And, yeah. I wasn't entirely sure. Like, I love Gastrodon. I do. But it wasn't worth it because it evolved later, and I needed Gastrodon and I would need it for the Electric Gym. And I wasn't about to sit there and grind. So, I ended up going for a Paldean Wooper, naming it Brownie. However, it didn't have the ability I wanted. See, I was going for Water Absorb. That way I could basically sit in front of the belly bolt and it would not touch me. But because I had Poison Point, I went to Cascarafa and I traded it for the regular Jotinian Wooper, named Manchester. Because that one did have Water Absorb, and I needed it for the battle. Of course, I was unable to. That means I probably wasn't going to be able to sweep with Quagsire, because Clodsire gets amnesia, and I can just sit there in front of the Mesmegius and not do anything. Of course, Talking Spikes could be a setup to a whole bunch of things I could do. But, yeah. Not great. But, I did what I could, though. And, of course, then, eventually, it would be time for the battle against Iono. And Manchester was able to make the Watch Troll, the Bellibolt, and the Luxio all sit down. But then came the Miss Magius. And I wasn't sure what to do. So what I decided to there were a lot of it was a lot of back and forth switching, predicting charge beams and predicting hexes, and having Manchester and use Yawn, and then Bubby trying to finish the battle with things like Breaking Swipe, which didn't happen. But it took a little predicting to do, and I did it. I feel great. Yay me, third gym badge in the bag. Next, I went for the Steel Titan Earthworm next, and also used this one as my encounter as well. The only one I didn't do that with was the Tatsugiri. That's the only one I didn't do it with. Actually, I don't think I used my encounter in that area at all. I should have, but we'll get there. The other thing was so I was an Earthworm. Did have ground moves, and my best Pokemon to take it down was Gator. But Earthworm doesn't have very good Spadef. So I just had to Terra Fire, Incinerate, Bing Bang Boom, beat it, got the Herba Mystica. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Caught the Earthworm. And now that we have Earthworm, let's do this. Whatever we name it is what you guys have to do. You guys like that deal? Alright, so what should we name the Earthworm? Subscribe? Well, you heard of the Earthworm. Make sure you subscribe, because people who are not subscribed to this channel are the enemy. Make sure to like and subscribe, everyone. Turn on bell notifications. You know the drill. Next up was the Fire Team Star Camp. And we needed to go through this. And it was going to be kind of hard, because the only some Pokemon that resisted fire, half my team resisted fire, actually, between Bubby, Gator, and Manchester. But the offense really wasn't there to compensate. So what I was hoping for was to allow Manchester to set up and potentially sweep. We got close. It wasn't perfect, but we got close. I did have to finish the battle off with someone else, but Manchester did most of the heavy lifting. Took out the Torkoal with mud shots, and once the sun was gone, was able to do some damage to the Starmobile, courtesy of Aqua Tail. Switched it out when the HP got low, and finished it off with, I believe, Skyton? Or was it Bubby? No, it was Skyton. Anyways, that's the second camp down, and a few more to go. Next, the challenge was Gym 4, and the Water Gym with Kofu. This one I wasn't really worried about, because I had coverage against Kofu between Linkling and Tree, respectively. Tree did evolve before the battle into Doglev, and the team was looking up. And also, Splat Riolu, I didn't tell you its name before, but it was Splatpat, which Link said that was his friend and wanted me to name the Riolu after his friend. Eventually, Splatpat loved me enough to evolve into Lucario, although Lucario didn't stick around for this battle. Of course, before this battle, I actually went to Tag Tree Thicket to get another Pokemon. One to replace Dolive after this battle. That Pokemon was Applin. And I'm wondering why. Because if you're familiar with this channel, there's 3 Bubbies. Cyclizar, Rampardos, and the OG was Appleton, the original Bubby. And since Rampardos is a Blueberry Academy Scarlet exclusive, I can't get it. But I can get Appleton. And I had settled on Appleton for 2 reasons. And aside from the Bubby reason. The first reason is that it had a speed lowering nature, so Flapple wasn't going to be of any use. But Bubby, despite being slow, is not only a tank, but it's very strong. It could even make use of its physical attack if needed. Very odd thing to say of a primarily special attacking defensive Pokemon. Of course, Bubby the apple had to sit out this one because I can't get a sweet apple until after I beat the Cascaroffa gym. So we had to take down Old Man Kofu first. We led with a Link took out the Veluza, and Dolive almost took out the Bug Trio, but I had to switch into Skyton and take it out because Dolive is just not good. And then the Crabominable came in. Link went for a Terra Electric Spark and they'll hopefully take it out. But the Crabominable had to have lived on what was like 10 HP. Fired back with the Terra Water Crabhammer, and it got the crit. Killing Link where he stood. Did the crit matter? Yeah, it did. Link was at full health and like 3 levels higher than that thing. Of course the crit mattered. Are you kidding me? And our first death was one that was tragic. One that could have been avoided had there not have been a freaking crit! Anyways, no point in worrying about it now. It's time to move on and get our next encounter. Which would be Rouse and Dolly. I debated Tinkatuff and Bronzong. I went with Tinkatuff because I didn't have a fairy yet. But it probably wouldn't have mattered. I probably would have not have ended up using either Pokemon anyway. But while training for this gym, Bubby did become Appleton, courtesy of the Sweet Apple, and a Splat replaced Link. And of course, Bubby Appleton did replace Tree. So the team was looking pretty good. The team was, at this point, Gator, the two Bubbies, Manchester, Splat, and Skyton. However, we did had a little bit of a problem. Because while we were going through the gym challenger, the mission to get the puzzles for the recipe, which I already knew. I didn't even have to battle these trainers. I already knew the answer. I've played this game many a times. I just wanted the experience. And Splat fell to a Greedence counter. Why do I play this game? Why do I like this game? A counter from a freaking Greedent. A Pokemon that's only like 13 pounds, has a physical defense stat that doesn't even match its weight. I can't. Now, here's the spot I was in. I had no fighting type going into this battle. Not one. Both of my fighting types died right before this battle. Both of them. I was not a happy camper at this point. Not a happy camper. So I decided to train a little bit and head to the Poison Team Star Camp before taking on Larry. And of course, during the battle, it was basically just a Manchester and Gator show. Skeletor just did a torch song against the Skuntank. I tarried first turn thinking that thing was going to Sucker Punch. It didn't. It Toxic. And then I had to switch out because I feared Venoshock. And then Manchester got Toxic. And there was just the whole thing. If I had Splat Pat, I wouldn't have to worry about Toxic. I can't. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I'm upset. I'm upset. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm upset. So what was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to do? I don't know. I don't know. But I did beat Atticus. Granted, I did have to heal a few times because the poisonings. But I did beat him. And now I had to go back to fight Larry with no super effective coverage. But honestly, it didn't go as bad as I thought it was going to. Thanks to Appleton, Skeledirge, and Quagsire, I didn't have any issues. Hardly. Kamala was yawning and it was annoying, but I was able to take it down. The Dunsparce came in, and apparently a Hyper Drill can hit through Protect. Who allowed this? What's this Pokemon hitting through Protect nowadays? Ugh. At the very least, though, I was able to. It was kind of tricky. I did put this sleep with Yawn, brought the Gator back in, Torch Song. I didn't tear in this battle because I didn't want Facade or its close comment from the Staraptor ruining my day. So a Torch Song or two later, Staraptor goes down and we get the 5th gym badge. But before that, before I had even fought the gym battle, something I didn't mention was I went and got an encounter at the piece of passage after I fought Atticus. Or maybe it was before, I don't remember. And that was the Terra fighting Sneasel. I wouldn't be able to use it because it was one level higher than the level cap. But also, something else happened while I was getting my encounter. And I think you can warrant a guess on what it was. That's right. Another freaking shiny. Shiny Litleo. Simba, the shiny Litleo. Even though it's female, we don't need to talk about that. Man, shiny luck in Pokemon? What is with this? So I guess subscribing to PM7 really does raise your shiny luck. Well, keep that in mind. So if you haven't set the PM7 to increase your shiny luck, you should go do that. You should go do that. It works. It works, right? But now it was time to move on to go to fight Rhyme in her ghost types. But I wanted to get my encounter. And after a long debate between things like Magnemite and Gardevoir and Frigibax, I decided on the latter. There was a Dark Terrasso Frigibax way out past Glossido. Does that pronounce it? Probably not, but whatever. And while I was there, and I got the Dark Terrasso Frigibax, and named it Dime as a nod to Dimetrodon. Of course, I wasn't really planning on using it right away. It was mainly there to sit there, get levels, and then eventually use against the Elite Four. And you'll see why later. But first, our battle between Rhyme and her ghost types. This was a battle of proportions. Because I had a lot of coverage against ghost types. Skyton, Gator, and heck, even Vandal, now a Weavile. I led on with Vandal and Gator into this battle. Gator went ahead and was choice scarfed in this battle. Torch Song did broke Mimikyu's disguise, while Beat Up took out the Bayonet. Of course, Shadow Claws and Shadow Sneaks from the Mimikyu were ruining Gator's day, so after a terrestrialization, Torch Song took out the Mimikyu, while Vandal took out the Houndstone with Beat Up. Of course, Terrago's Toxicity came in, bing, bang, boom. Battle was over, and we went about our merry way to go fight the Titan Iron Treads. Gator, of course, Fire Torch Song single-handedly took it out, and thanks to Scoville and Scary Face being good support, we won the battle no problem. Of course, it was now time to get Iron Treads as my encounter. Sorry, but it didn't end well. When I was catching it, trying to catch it, Manchester got crit by Stomping Tantrum, and we lost Manchester. Granted, I did feel like Metal Face, the Iron Treads, was going to be the Manchester replacement, but now I don't have a water type. And I don't have a water type for the remainder of the game because I didn't use any encounters on water type Pokemon from here on out. There were no water options for me left. I looked at the rest of the teams and the rest of the big boss battles I had left. And the only one where water would have been in any sort of use was the ground Elite Four member, Rika. But I had ice coverage for days because of Dime, and Iron Treads can learn Ice Spinner oddly enough. So, I wasn't too worried. But now we had a little bit of a problem. We went ahead and fought two... well, I say we had a problem. It was more like we were losing Pokemon that were viable options. I wasn't really getting much in return for my losses. But then again, we weren't doing that bad. Only 3 deaths in, only 2 gyms, 1 Titan, and 2 camps left. Plus the Elite Four and other stuff. So, as of right now, we were doing just fine. But the next big boss battle was against Nemona. And while we did have some issues because that stupid Palmont, but we beat her with, now that I think about it, minimal issues. Because my team is just that good. We fight Tulip. Skyton takes out the Farigiraf. The Farafugrig. Metalface takes out the Gardevoir. But then things got spicy. I sent in Gator to take out the Espath of a Shadow Ball, which it didn't. It lived, and then it Shadow Balled me, and it got the special defense drop. I Torch Songed. That's why I didn't lose. I Torch Songed it, not Shadow Balled it. That's why I didn't kill. I Torch Songed it. Terrifier Torch Song. Of course, the Espathra got the special defense drop on Shadow Ball, which scared me a little bit, thinking I probably wasn't going to be able to live a Terra Psychic from the Florges. But I was at +2 special attack when the floor just came in. And I'm like, yeah, I can take it out. Shouldn't be that much of an issue, right? I forgot how bulky it was. It took only half from a +2 Terra Fire Torch Song. Half. Fire Bat with Terra Psychic at -1. And Gator lived. Barely. Had to have been like 8 HP. It was insane. It lived. My guy lived. Why do I do this? I almost lost Gator. If I had lost Gator, the run probably would have been over. But now I move on to I fight Grusha, and now I can just Terra Fire Torch Song all of his Pokemon, which I did. Now we have all 8 gym badges. But there was still something that we were missing. An electric type. We needed a electric type because we didn't have Link Lane anymore. And there was one electric type I was talking about that would be good speed control. That would be able to help me out through the remainder of these battles. And that was Jolteon. Jolteon as a base 130 speed stat and has good special attack to boot. Of course, I was considering Kilowattrel for this spot, but I already had Skyton, and I'm like, I don't need another flying type. Let's just roll with Milk. It's got good speed, good offenses, guaranteed to be Terra Electric. Let's just go get it. I was hunting for one in the Socret Trail because I know that where the yellow flowers are. Because I know that's where you can find one. However, after literally what had to have been 2 hours of hunting it off cam, it wasn't showing up, so I just settled for the Terra one, which was in an area where I'd already used my encounter. So I wanted, so again, kind of like cheating. I get it, but like, I needed this power. I needed it. I needed this power, so I'm just gonna say that the Terra Jolteon was my encounter over there at the trail, and we're just gonna roll past that. We're just gonna move past that. But now we had to milk the Jolteon. If any of y'all get that reference, I will be very impressed. Now we took on the Favorite Team Star Camp next. We did get Silver the Terra Fairy Sylveon as an encounter there, just in case something were to happen. We need another Evolution to help out. And also, I didn't have a Fairy type on the team, so like, definitely would have been cool. Milk took out the Azumarill with the Thunderbolt, and then I had Metal Face go ahead and do his thing with Iron Head against the Wigglytuff and the Darkspun. The Starmobile comes out, and Metal Face basically just walls it. And we're able to beat it. And now we just got one Titan and one camp left. And I opted for the Dondozo battle first. The Dragon Titan. So I led with Milk against the Dondozo, Terra Electric Thunderbolting into the Oblivion. Of course, and then the Tatsugiri came out afterwards, the actual Dragon type. I didn't have any super effective coverage because the only things that beat Water Dragon super effectively are Dragon and Fairy. And while I had Dragon, it also knew Icy Wind, and I wasn't comfortable bringing in Bubby. And also Dragon Pulse would have done some damage to Dime. So I opted to keep Jolteon in and Thunderbolted still. Although I was Shadow Balling first because I wanted to try and get us a Death Drop. But eventually I did get the Toxagiri down, Final Heart Mystica, and finally healing Arven's beloved Mabosstiff, which I didn't mention in the story because everyone who's watching this video has probably already played this game, and now we have Arven's Mabosstiff fully healed. Next, our final camp, Aerie the Fighting Specialist. I used an encounter for a Hawlucha, which I named Luchador, which I didn't use against Aerie, but it would be relevant later. The battle began, and I set up with Skyton with Hone Claws and Dewingy, knocking out her first 4 Pokemon. And of course, Terra Flying in the process. Then the Starmobile comes in. I make a Swap the Gator expecting a spin out, which I got. And a few Torch songs later, got the Starmobile around a reasonably solid health. I want to say 60% health left. But there was a little bit of an issue, and that is the thing had just set up to shift gear. It set up as shift gear and threatened me with high horsepower. So I had to make a swap to Bubby, but it shift geared again. And by the way, at this point, it's just Bubby the Appletun. When I got Dime, Bubby Cyclozar was already off the team. So Bubby the Appletun came in. I didn't really have any Pokemon that would be able to eat many moves. Bubby was the only one that could eat. And it ate the Combat Torque, but it did like 65 damage in the process. I protected and got some leftovers healing from the damage back, but Bubby was not going to be able to live into the Combat Torque. So at this point, someone was going to have to die. And I knew that. Because this thing was at +2 attack, +2 speed, courtesy of 2 shift gears. I was in a really difficult spot. I knew it was going to Combat Torque me again, more than likely. So I swapped the Gator. But then it was going to high horsepower me. So then I just swapped the Skyton, predicting that. So now we're at this point where someone has to die. It's either going to be Dime the Artibax or Skyton the Bombardier. It was not going to be pretty. And of course, I had to make a decision. And I had settled on Skyton. Even though I really like Team Sky, I couldn't let that define me switching in the Artibax. Because Dime, when it would become a Max Caliber, would be able to Dragon Dane's Icicle Spear sweep 3 of the 4 Elite Four members. And that was a value I could not pass up. So I sacked off Skyton to the spin out, brought it in Milk, Thunderbolted it, and since it killed because it was at -1 special defense, courtesy of Bubby's Apple Acid. But I feel like a winner. I had just lost my 4th Pokemon. Before our one that had been with me for a while. And now we were going to face a gauntlet of trainers. A gauntlet of boss battles. The replacement for Skyton was Luchador the Hawlucha. We replaced Team Sky member with Team Sky member, and the fighting type would be useful later. I was debating the Sylveon, but I didn't really like the idea. considering that I didn't really have much use for a fairy type anymore. So the final squad going into these last strings of battles was Gator the Skeldurge, Bubby the Appleton, Milk the Jolteon, Dime the Baxcalibur, Luchador the Hawlucha, and Metalface the Iron Treads. And after a little bit of training before the final few battles, my lowest Pokemon was 56 and my highest was 61. I didn't want to lose, okay? Now, next up was the Elite Four. Eureka, Alaric, and Hassel were all Dragon Icicle Spear swept by Dime. And Poppy, we had to get a little crazy with. But with the combination of Metal Face and Gator, we were just fine. And then, of course, the battle against Gita. I love a Gator and Shadow Balled it in one hit, thankfully. And then the Avalilla came in, but I didn't really have anything against Avalilla because I was already locked into Shadow Ball. So I went into Metal Face. Took an Avalanche, not an Earthquake, oddly enough, and took it out with 2 Iron Heads. Well, 3 actually, because it got the flinch on the first one. Let's go. Veluza was coming in next. Milk took that thing out, and then Gator Torch Songed both Kingambit and Engo go down. Next, and last but not least, was the Terra Rock Glamora. I was in a little bit of a pickle because I wasn't really sure what to do. Because before this, I had revamped some of my sets. Jolteon, Milks, and Bubbies, mostly, were revamped. But I was a little... But I brought in Bubby against the Glamora. You might be wondering, why would I do that? This thing was going to Sludge Wave Bubby and kill it. Not with the Assault Vest item, it's not. I wanted to bait a Sludge Wave. Because I didn't want Metal Face going down to an Earth Power. So I wanted to get a hit with Bubby in. And also to avoid Toxic Spikes, I wanted to have Bubby in, hit it with Apple Acid, eat a Sludge Wave, bring Metal Face in on another potential Sludge Wave, and then kill it with Earthquake. To avoid any Toxic Debris or Earth Power shenanigans. Would have Iron Treads outsped and probably killed with Earthquake anyways? Probably. And would have Bubby died to a crit Sludge Wave? Yes. But, I'd rather play it safe. Then we battled Clive, and this battle wasn't really that difficult. Because there wasn't really any Gyarados I had to worry about, because his starter was the Quaquaval. It was really just Torch Songs from Gator, Crunches from Baxcalibur, and Earthquakes from Metal Face, and it was a Thunderbolt from Jolteon onto the Dancing Duck. And it was a bing bang boom win. But then we've had to fight Arven next. And all of 6 of Arven's Pokemon are weak to the stat combination of fighting and flying. So Luchador 6-0'd after a Swords Dance and wiped the floor with his entire team. Oh, it was great. I love Hawlucha. I love Hawlucha so much. And then Penny. This battle was kind of crazy because Baxcalibur was sweeping through most, but Baby Doll Eyes shenanigans were getting kind of annoying. But against the Sylveon, things got crazy because the Sylveon knew Shadow Ball. And I was using Gator against it, and I already used my Terra at this point. So I needed to hit this thing hard, with Torch Song, but I couldn't Terra. So after living miraculously 2 Shadow Balls and living with 1 HP after a +1 Torch Song didn't kill, I won. But again, Gator hard clutched. Again. You gotta respect the bulk of Skeledirge. And then the battle with Nemona. This battle wasn't that crazy. I mean, it did get kind of crazy. I lived with Metal Face while she lived with Lycanroc. She set up her rocks. I was debating rapid spinning him away with Metal Face, but I wasn't about to attempt to take a close combat to the face. So after taking it out with Earthquake, the Palmont was coming in. I brought in Bubby, because even though I knew a close combat was coming, I predicted a close combat from the Palmont, but it actually went for Ice Punch instead. And Bubby lived on 1 HP. 1. Fight back with an Earthquake, but I won in close combat because Earthquake would have O-code had the Palmont close combated. But I didn't get that. So I had to go into Gator, Torch Song it down, and Torch Song it down. Thanks to that, the Palmont was gone. Then the Orthworm came in, oddly enough. 1 Torch Song later, that thing was down. But now I had a little bit of an issue because the Goodra was coming in. And that Goodra had a super effective move for most of my team. And Bubby was injured. So I couldn't rely on Bubby to eat a hit with Assault Vest. I had to make sure that I didn't lose a Pokemon. And I opted for Dying. I had him Terrasilize at this point. So I knew that Terrasilizing into a Dark Terra to eat the incoming Dragon Pulse while Dragon Dancing was a smart move. There was a little bit of an issue though, because I didn't want to risk another, a move killing. So I Icicle Speared it down next turn. But in came the Dunsparce. And after a few turns of worrying about Coil and Terra Dark Crunch not killing and Dragon Dancing even more, the Dunsparce did go down. And since I had already set enough Dragon Dances to outspeed Meowscarada, Icicle Spear, bing bang boom. We had won. But it wasn't over. We still had to do Area 0. And the battle against Professor Turo and his Iron Mons. I led with Metal Face, and he led with Iron Moth. I Earthquaked that thing immediately. You may be wondering how I outsped it, if assuming Iron Moth does outspeed Iron Treads. That's because I had given the Toy Scarf to Metal Face right before the battle to make sure I outsped the Iron Moth and the Iron Valiant. So now Iron Moth sat down. Next came in the Iron Bundle, I believe. Or was it Iron Jugulus? No, it was Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns came in. Earthquaked it. He died. Then Iron Jugulus came in. Milk took it out with Thunderbolt. Then the Iron Hands was coming back in. I Terrasilized Metal Face to avoid any big damage from Drain Punch and to do big damage with Earthquake. After 2 Earthquakes, the Iron Hands went down. Iron Bundle came in, right back to Milk, a Thunderbolt, a bing bang boom. And then the Iron Valiant. I brought Metal Face back in. And hoping to kill it with Iron Head, but of course it lived. But since Spirit Break doesn't kill, One Iron Head later, I took down the Iron Valiant and won the Nuzlocke. So, the recap, I had 4 deaths. Linkling, the Palmont, Splatpat, the Lucario, Manchester, the Quagsire, and Skyton, the Bombardier. Not too bad if I do say so myself. And of course, the one Pokemon that stayed with me the entire time without dying, that was the earliest encounter that does not include Gator, was Bubby, the Appleton. And I'm like, which makes sense, because Bubby's the GOAT. Everyone on this channel knows Bubby is the GOAT. And, again, great challenge. I really wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And the team ended up being pretty good at the end. So, I mean, I'll take it. The team actually ended up being pretty good. What can I say? Despite a few flaws in terms of encounters that I was doing and, other shenanigans, I still did it. And now I'm 3-0 on Nuzlocks. And we will be doing another Nuzlocke. And we'll be doing another Nuzlocke after I finish the fighting only run. We'll be doing another Nuzlocke and Let's Go Pikachu. So if you want to see that, make sure you like and subscribe and turn on bell notifications once we start doing that. And of course, that's all I have for now. Till next time, Pokefans. Gotta catch them all. Make sure to like and subscribe too while you're at it. I'd really appreciate it. So would Bubby. I gotta go.